All right, let's jump right in. Welcome to today's explainer, everyone. We're taking a fascinating journey into the very architecture of our own minds. If you've ever wondered why we constantly chase satisfaction but so rarely seem to hold on to it, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to demystify some profound ancient wisdom to understand exactly how our minds construct our reality, our happiness, and quite frankly, our suffering. I am incredibly excited to unpack this with you, because once you see these mechanics laid out, it completely changes how you view your everyday experiences.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, the mechanics of mind. Then, the illusion of objects. Third, the cycle of insatiability. And finally, ignorance and ultimate freedom.
Part 1. Mechanics of Mind. How we construct reality. So to truly grasp our reality, we can't just stare at the outside world. We've got to look inward and understand the fundamental building blocks of our own moment-to-moment experience. Let me ask you a deeply provocative question. Where does happiness actually live? Think about your everyday pursuit of satisfaction. You know, that new gadget, the perfect cup of coffee, a big promotion at work. We spend our whole lives aiming at these targets. But where is that joy actually happening? To answer that, we have to look at what makes us up in the first place. And the answer lies in the five aggregates. In this philosophical framework, these five elements collectively create what we conventionally call our past, present, and future existence. We've got Rūpa, which is physical form or sensory input. Then there's Vedanā, the felt sensation. Saññā is our perception or recognition of it. Saṅkhāra refers to our volitional mental formations, and Viññāṇa is the conscious awareness tying it all together. Every single thing you experience is just a dynamic interplay of these five blocks. This builds into an actual experience in 3 rapid-fire steps. Step 1, a raw sensory input, like a sound or a sight, makes contact with a sense space, like your ear or eye. Step 2, a corresponding consciousness instantly arises. But here's the kicker. Step 3. Immediately, Vedanā emerges. Vedanā is simply a pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral felt response. Notice what isn't here yet: emotion. Vedanā is that immediate, raw quality of experience that happens a split second before our complex emotional and cognitive reactions even kick in.
Section 2. The illusion of objects, the trap of clinging. So what happens when those initial, fleeting sensations morph into deep, sticky attachments? To explain this, the source material offers a brilliant analogy that I just love. Imagine a boy and a girl in a toy shop. The boy desperately wants a toy car, and the girl longs for a teddy bear. If their parents buy them those exact toys, they're absolutely thrilled. But what if the parents swap them? They hand the car to the girl and the bear to the boy. Both kids are completely unsatisfied. So what does this prove? It proves that the happiness doesn't actually reside inside the plastic car or the stuffed bear. The happiness arises entirely in the mind.
Notice the profound contrast here between the external object and the mind. The toy itself has absolutely zero inherent happiness, just like it has no inherent hatred. If that toy car breaks or gets stolen, the child might feel intense sadness or anger, what's known as dvesha, or aversion. But just like the happiness wasn't in the toy, the sadness and anger aren't in the broken pieces of plastic either. They're purely mental constructs, totally driven by the mind's own attachment and perception.
This attachment is known as Upadana, or clinging. When we cling, we take those neutral 5 aggregates we talked about earlier and transform them into the 5 clinging aggregates, which traps us. And we trap ourselves in 4 specific ways. We cling to sense pleasures, endlessly chasing worldly highs. We cling to views, locking ourselves into rigid dogmas. We cling to rites and rituals, thinking mere physical actions somehow guarantees spiritual results. And we cling to self-doctrine, forcefully identifying a permanent self in phenomena that are inherently selfless. This clinging right here is the exact mechanism that generates suffering.
Section 3. The cycle of insatiability, mental fabrication.
So what happens when we stay trapped? Let's look at how this clinging snowballs into endless, frustrating mental fabrication. Once we start clinging, we generate something called Abhisankara. This is higher mental fabrication. It's when we attach to sensory stimuli driven by greed, hatred, or delusion. Abhisankara is the root cause of our suffering. It's where our negative thoughts, our anxieties, and our emotional bonding step in to pollute the pure mind. This isn't just passive experiencing. This is our mind actively spinning narratives, judgments, and cravings that keep us locked in a vicious cycle of misery.
And these mental fabrications have real consequences, known as vipaka, or karmic results, which fall into three types. You've got puññā, which are wholesome thoughts leading to positive results. You have apuññā, unwholesome thoughts driven by anger or greed that lead to negative outcomes. And you have anicca, very subtle formations from deep meditation. But I want you to notice this. All of these, yes, even the positive ones, are still fabrications. They still keep the mind restless and moving.
Because of this constant restless movement, we have to deeply understand a concept called anicca. Now I want you to pay very close attention here, because this is so often widely misunderstood. Anicca is frequently translated just as impermanence, but the source material makes a forceful, crucial distinction. Anicca actually means insatiable. It's the profound, sobering realization that the pursuit of worldly objects and sensory desires will never, ever yield the desired outcome. It's not just that things fade away. It's that the world is fundamentally incapable of fully satisfying your cravings. It's an unending chase. And that leads us directly into this next core concept, anatta. Again, let's correct the record based on our texts today. Anatta doesn't just broadly mean no self. Rather, in this context, anatta highlights absolute futility. Because sensory desires are insatiable, chasing them is ultimately futile. It highlights the inherent emptiness in trying to extract lasting meaning or permanent identity out of these endless sensory chases. Recognizing this futility is actually a massive relief. It literally gives you permission to stop running on the treadmill.
Section 4. Ignorance and Ultimate Freedom.
So if the treadmill is futile, how do we finally step off? Well, the reason we're on the treadmill in the first place is avijja, or ignorance. But we're not talking about a lack of general knowledge or failing a pop quiz here. Avijja is a fundamental delusion. It is the specific ignorance of the Four Noble Truths and the true nature of how our minds construct reality. Avijja is the engine driving this whole cycle of dependent origination. It's the blindfold that keeps us endlessly chasing the insatiable, mistakenly believing that the next toy, the next achievement, is going to be the one that finally brings lasting peace.
So what does a mind look like when the blindfold comes off? The contrast here is striking. An ordinary mind generates those five clinging aggregates we talked about. It's tangled up in endless craving and aversion. But the mind of a noble disciple, an arahant, is totally different. They still experience the world. They still have the basic five aggregates of sight, sound, and sensation. But their mind is luminous, pure, and completely free from grasping. They experience the sensation without generating the desperate mental fabrication of clinging.
I really want to highlight this powerful quote directly from the source material. When raga is eradicated from the mind, emotional turbulence ceases entirely. This is the path of liberation. Raga is that deep craving, that passionate attachment. When you pull that weed out by the roots, the emotional roller coaster just stops. It beautifully summarizes our entire journey today. Happiness isn't out there in the world waiting to be consumed. Lasting happiness is the profound peace that arises when we stop fighting the mechanics of our own minds.
I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought. We've seen how the mind operates. We've seen how clinging creates the illusion of happiness and the stark reality of suffering. So, moving forward today, are you going to continue chasing insatiable desires in the external world, or will you look inward to untangle the mechanics of your own mind? The choice, and the freedom that comes with it, is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.